Ever see code that is so bad that it makes you question your entire career as a software dev? It makes you think, is this really worth it? I have on Twitter as a wallpaper. I don't have words for this. I've been thinking about this since I saw it a few days ago, and I could keep sitting here suffering in silence, but instead I'm going to bring you all down the rabbit hole with me. We're going to go through this line by line, as well as the history of where this code came from and why it exists and how we ended up here in the first place. From the if true equals true to the weird internet use cases, we have a lot to dive into here. But first, a quick word from today's sponsor. Today's sponsor is Browserbase, and I like these guys so much that I invested. It's a web browser for your AI. What the hell does that mean? It means that they are a service that manages the Chromium Playwright chaos for you, so you can hit it like an API with traditional Playwright stuff, with Puppeteer, or with all the awesome things they built too. So here in the browser, I can just press Command Enter, and now I can just prompt it to do a bunch of crazy things. I can ask for it to go to Hacker News, go to Google and click the first result. It will generate the code and run it. But this isn't the product. This is a demo of the product. The product is the cloud hosting for the browser that is being queried by Playwright. If I click this, you'll see it generates the code, window.playwright.chromium.connect over CDP. Now it's connected to that remote Chromium instance, and it just works. It's super handy. Where it gets way handier is when you use their free open source package, Stagehand, which you can use without using Browserbase, by the way. It's so cool. You can literally tell Stagehand to go to a specific page, act by giving it a descriptive action. Instead of telling it go to this element and trigger on click, you say, click on the contributors. And then you tell it to extract this data, extract the top contributors, and you give it a Zod schema, which if you've hung around for a bit, you know that this is the best validation library, to automatically get this data. All type safe too. How cool is that? You can use AI in your actual code to do logical, simple, useful things. Writing this with Playwright before was not fun. See how much more work that is than just saying what you want it to do, giving it an instruction and giving it a schema. It's so useful, it's hard to put into words. Thank you, Browserbase, for sponsoring. Check them out today at swadev.link/browserbase. Make sure you check out Stagehand too. As I mentioned before, I saw this because somebody posted it as a developer coder wallpaper. And then my researcher, Gabriel, quote tweeted it with some dunk on it. And I was like, oh God, this is terrible. And I did my own dunk that went relatively viral. But I kept thinking about it. I really wanted to understand where it came from, specifically because it's all syntactically correct, except for at the end here, this show login failed thing. That's not valid syntax, but everything else was. I found this source from a deleted programming horror post. And I also found it on Web Archive, and the image did work before. Okay, cool, it's working again. And this is, as far as I can tell, the closest thing we have to the original code. I know that because they got rid of the weird thing in the show. And I'm pretty sure other than that, the code is identical. API service equals select from var, account length, I++, return true. Yeah. It's so weird to change just this and to add this login failed there. I don't know how that happened. I really don't. The only other missing piece is this comment here, put this in a different file, which is hilarious. The one thing I never could find is when this login failed got added to this awful copy pasta code where it would end up in the place it's in now. But first, we should break down the code itself. So let's go through this one line at a time. First, we have put this in a different file. On line 541 in Sublime text. Great sign, great starting point. This isn't a script tag, so the rest is probably HTML, and what they're saying here isn't necessarily like put this on the server-side files where it probably should go. What they're saying here is put this in a different file, probably a JS file, because this is an HTML file, and you shouldn't have how your authentication works in your HTML, because people will inspect it, see it, and if you just put it in your JS, it's totally safe, right? If you think that's where this falls apart, you have no idea how horrible we're about to get here. We then have an authenticate user function. This authenticate user function is spelt correctly, and that's all of the compliments I can give it. From here, we go downhill very alarmingly quickly. Var accounts equals API service.SQL select star from users. Yes, what this code does is fetches all of the users from your database and stores them as a variable. And I will admit, I've written code like this here and there. I'm not going to pretend otherwise, but I never once did this on the client side because that is really dumb. Why would you do that? The closest thing I can come up with that even vaguely made sense that I've done recently, I'm working on a project, 1 app, 5 stacks, where I build the same app in 5 different stacks. And obviously one of those is TypeScript and Next.js server component stuff. And in here, I have my results page that calls get rankings, which doesn't need get all Pokemon. Wait, I don't not even do this here this way? Oh yeah, I put this all in a KV. Never mind. I don't even do this that badly here. I was going to show code where I select every single value from my SQL database. I don't even do that here. I knew better. I grab all of the Pokemon, which is coming from a cached API call. But first off, this only runs on the server. And second off, I'm not selecting star from a table on my database in my code. So much less bad. There are a lot of other worse things that you should worry about here, like the fact that if you can call SQL directly on the client, anyone can call SQL directly from the client. And since this API service thing is a global, otherwise you wouldn't be able to call it here, the user would be able to inspect element, go to console, and type in API service.sql, and in here, delete star from users. And now you don't have a database anymore. Because again, this is running on the client. Their API service is just exposing the database to the client as a direct tunnel. Insanity. And it only gets worse as we scroll. For var I equals 0, I is less than accounts.length, I++. Okay, before you question things, and I know a lot of you are already questioning here, where's the await? How are you calling this and not waiting? This code was almost certainly written before async await were a thing, and they were certainly doing blocking XHR requests here. So it is holding up your JS thread while it waits for this code to come back. That's what's happening here. That also means this was before for each, probably also before map. So this was the only way in JavaScript to select individual things one at a time from a list. Disgusting. But what's much funnier is we're just looking for any account where the username and password match, and then we return true. Theoretically speaking, this is all the code we saw. There's a massive security hole in the fact that this API service is exposed on the client side. But as long as this password is being passed in a hashed way, like before we call authenticate user, we hash the password, at least these users' passwords aren't being exposed to everyone. It's just their hashes, right? Right? Well, if we scroll, we see we are just grabbing them from the form directly. But we're not even done with the authenticate user function yet because we haven't gotten to the magnum opus, the creme de la creme, the beauty, the art. I'm excited for AI to take over because it can't be worse than this. What almost certainly... I'm going to do my best to steel man here as I stumble over my words in awe. My guess is that at some point, the left side wasn't string true. The left side was account.isActive or something. So if account.isActive equals string true, not even true the Boolean, but the string true, which is probably why it's a string, because they probably grabbed this from the database originally. So it was probably checking in here, if account.isActive equals true the string, return true. Otherwise, whatever. And they probably just copied that out or made the change and then left it there because it worked. But there's 17 ways to simplify this. Even if you just made it not an if statement, you just did return true equals true or not equal true. Because no, if true is true, return false. No, I'm trying my hardest to even think how this could happen, and I'm struggling. Why does this happen? At least their jQuery code kind of works. So they have an ID login, so that's the field or the button tagged login. And if you click it, then var username has to select the username's value. Password, select password field's value. Authenticated is the result of authenticate user, username, password. And here is the underrated goat of this code. If authenticated equals true, $.cookie, logged in, yes. They instantly set a cookie on the client side to know that you're logged in, which means if there is any server code that is being blocked here, it's only checking logged in yes on the client side. And it expires almost immediately too. What does expires 1 even do? The number represents days, not hours or minutes in the expires on jQuery. Thank you for confirming that, Claude. I did not know. God, that is stupid. I want to go a step further. You know what? We're going to take advantage of Claude here. I can't suffer alone any longer. Thanks, Arc, for fucking hard locking because I opened up Cursor. That's great. My whole browser is currently frozen. Totally not a dead browser. Okay, somebody in here wrote out the code. Yeah, here it is. I do love this comment, though. I'm going to suggest to show this on interviews at my working place and that the minimum requirement should be to point out at least 4 bad things here. I actually like that. That's a good interview question. I normally go the opposite, like showing really good code and asking like, what does this do? This code appears to be problematic authentication implementation with several serious security issues. The code implements a login functionality that takes a user and password from form inputs, attempts to authenticate the user, sets a cookie, and shows an error message. The major security vulnerabilities include plaintext passwords, SQL injection risks, insecure authentication, weak session management, because it uses an easily modifiable logged in equals yes, strange and redundant logic, code organization issues. Yeah, thank you, Claude. So helpful. Most people are probably thinking here, like, somebody made this as a joke. This is just fake code somebody made to outrage people. No. It was being used on an intranet app. That's not a typo. That's intranet, which means it is a local network at a business probably. So a company has their own network that isn't exposed publicly. So only employees will have access to this tool. And I have seen horrifying things in these types of code bases. The code bases where you can't go to the page unless you're plugged into an Ethernet at the office because they're not exposed externally. They tend to think a lot less about security of these things. The original poster deleted their comment, but this is said comment. It's absolutely being used in practice right now. The worst bit, the internet is public. Oh God, no. It's not a traditional internet. It's not local only. It's not locked to a network. It's exposed publicly. You can access it from the company's website. Oh my God. Ugh. Also worth noting that they called out, this isn't related to Capital One. They were complaining about something on a finance forum. That's why the account is Capital One Throwaway, so don't read into that. Although I wouldn't be surprised if this was a finance company. But God. Apparently this user also posted other similarly horrifying code here and there. An API with no security, executing SQL with JavaScript fetch requests. Loading.html, establishing secure connection. The closest thing to security in this code base is the use of the words establishing secure connection. Bold. Set timeout. Loading. Processing security protocol. 2000. And then 3 seconds. Secure connection established. Just lying with timeouts. Also, these two contradict. These are 2-3 second timeouts. Like, these are going to conflict, and it's just a weird race condition. API service dot send request. Select star from analytics where user ID equals plus user ID. Even if this was server-side code, this would be bad. Oh, man. I'll be honest. The most believable thing in here is the hard-coded server name. This suggests that this code was actually real and being used for an internal tool. This is... Okay, I think I figured it out. This is either a data analyst or an IT person who was forced to write code to expose the stuff that they do. I'm leaning data person because they are selecting from analytics here. So my guess is that this is what all data and IT people do. This is yet another XKCD I reference all the time. I'm just outside town, so I should be there in 15 minutes. Actually, it's looking more like 6 days. No, wait, 30 seconds. The author of the Windows file copy dialog visits some friends. This is also my experience with every data analyst and IT person, because they're used to estimates being fucking wise always. So they're just doing the same thing here. If this is a data person and they're used to their tools lying to them about loading states, we shouldn't be surprised that they're lying to us about loading states too. And the fact that they have the same set timeout call 3 times here, such that they would contradict, because all of these happen synchronously. It's like this gets called, then this, then this, then this, then this. It doesn't seem like they understand the concept of synchronous versus asynchronous, because now these are all going to fight. This is obviously somebody who doesn't write JavaScript for a living. This is somebody who does something else. It is quickly trying to write some JavaScript in order to do their job. Still absolutely fucking horrifying, though. Wow, I had started my job at Twitch when this dropped. So now let's take this one, the updated one that has the login syntax error. Interesting here. This one has the login failed bit. Oh, wait, doesn't even have the space. What? This has been transformed so many times. That's really interesting. Login failed doesn't have the space in it. Here it does. What's going on here? This is a fucking journey. Well, I can say confidently that we've put more thought into this code than the developer did, but goddamn. My theory is when this got added to this Italian shitty programmer Facebook page, that they wanted to make the code more readable for people who didn't speak English as well. and make it clear what's happening. So they might have added the login failed here to indicate that. That's the only thing I can imagine. And $.show just, let me check. What does $element.show do? I'm assuming this changes it from like a hide to show. Yeah, it changes the CSS from none to its original value. That's what I thought, because I didn't think you could pass it arguments. Oh, you'd pass it arguments for how long it should take to show. I forget how based jQuery is. Like, that's such a useful thing. So login failed is not a thing you can pass that at all. I just wanted to confirm that. But yeah, there's nothing you can pass to .show other than like numbers, unless you defined login failed as a number above. So authenticate user using password. This is all the same so far. Select star from users. Turn true if true is true. Return false. Login, click, function, $, username, password. Okay, yeah, the only changes are on this line, which is weird because they got rid of the ID selector. So this can't work because you can't select error message without it being an ID or a class name. So you have to have a dot or a hash in front. Like this original version, this code works. It doesn't work well. You shouldn't use it, but it technically does. But this permutation of it doesn't. And which is the one that was in the tweet? Yeah. Okay. And how different is this one? I'm assuming it's mostly the same, but I want to confirm that. Yeah, it is. Okay, so why are they just changing this line over and over again? Why does the last line of the actual code get changed in all of these renditions of this code? What happened here? Let's search for this exact string on Google. Wow, somebody reposted it, because I posted this, they threw it in Programming Horror again, not knowing that this is where it came from originally. Oh God, did this version screw up the quotes? Yeah, that one has different quotes. Okay, new theory. I think I figured it out. I think this was copy-pasted using a crappy text, like OCR copy-pasting. So like, for example, using what I have here with macOS Preview, I can select text in this, like that. So my guess is somebody did that to grab it, quickly fixed any errors that they saw in it, and added that crappy login failed thing at the end there. And then somebody else OCR copied it for the second permutation of the image. But it's like, this one is so much higher res color-wise. Oh, wait, yep, I've confirmed my theory. See that? Look at how poorly encoded the fucking ligatures in the wrapping are on the characters. This is some weird AI bullshit. This one was made via an OCR copy. This one was made with some AI gen upscaler. Apparently, Waifu2x is known for adding spaces like that sometimes. An AI gen upscaler based on the OCR copy. Yeah. You can see a lot of the weirdness. Yeah, there we are. See the weirdness in the rounding of the T here? That's from AI upscaling of the image for sure. Because remember, this is for a wallpaper. Somebody probably had this old screenshot, removed the things from the corner and the top, and we're like, I want this to be a wallpaper, but it's too low res. And they used this Waifu2x upscaler to upscale it. That also probably introduced the space at the bottom there, and then just used that and didn't think anything of it because the code was already so bad, and they either didn't know code or their intent was for it to be a bad code thing. I'm going with that theory. I think we figured it out. What a journey. From this horrifying code to the more horrifying reasons it exists to the most horrifying reason that it's become a wallpaper. I think we figured it all out. And in the end, I still get to blame AI. Until next time, peace nerds.